Hi, I'm Daniel, and this may be an unpopular take, but Muppets Most Wanted the best thing to come out of the main Muppet franchise. It's not including things like the Muppet Baby shows or all them TV movie specials because I haven't seen all of them, but it's just the best out of the main three shows and six theatrical movies which Disney owns. Muppets Now was a bad show, and I had a whole video series about the first couple of episodes, even though looking back I was a bit too positive on the show. I first called the first two episodes average, when now I believe they were under average. That was mainly because I still had hope that the show could be something good. The original Muppet show is fine, but you get the point after a couple of episodes. On average, only about half the sketches work. The 2015 The Muppet is a great series and easily the best out of the three, for being a documentary style look at the characters. The putting on a show part is put on the side of the episodes. It's a shame this ended so soon, and barely anyone talked about this. So if you haven't seen the 2015 series, I will recommend it. As for the movies, Treasure Island and The Great Muppet Caper are fine, but the weakest ones. The Muppet movie is great, but overshadowed by a lot of Yates movies that do it better. Christmas Carol is the best out of the ones where the Muppets are actors playing characters, except for Rizzo who's playing himself. The Muppets 20th is another amazing film. Being an emotional and funny movie reuniting the Muppets. Most wanted a follow-up to that 2011 film, but it still works down the humor out the previous, except for the first minute, which would be confusing. It's a superb film, better than all the other Muppet movie I just talked about, for all of the reasons which I will discuss here in quite a long video. Part 1, Expert Story. This may be unexpected, but the story is expertly written and told in Most Wanted. It starts with a Muppet World Tour, which would normally be a full plot if you put some character arcs in it. And it would fit right in with a generic movie based on an old property. But that's far from just it. Kermit is switched with the number one criminal and sent to prison while the top two criminals are working with the Muppets. They do this in disguise and plan the shows right next to artifacts that they steal, which leads to agents suspecting the Muppets. Walter, Fozzie and Animal find out, so they have to go to break Kermit out of prison, while the criminals, Constantine and Dominic, try to stain the Muppets for all the stolen artifacts. Constantine, when trying to be Kermit, plans to marry Miss Piggy in Britain to steal the found jewels. I think you get the point. Sounds very complicated when I explain it like that with so much happening, but it's actually in a way that makes it feel normal. Most Wanted isn't really a mystery. We see all sides and know who the criminals are and what they plan to do, which is a great use of dramatic irony when watching the suspect of the agent and the Muppet. It's really fun and entertaining to watch the events unravel in a really interesting way, and it plays around all the crime aspects of the story. There's your comparisons made between this and The Great Muppet Caper, with both being Muppet movies which involve heist and being framed for a crime. But they are clearly different viewing experiences. The Great Muppet Caper spends the first half of the movie with boring padding with a generic storyline. When the crime stuff starts, the movie is already 2/3 of the way through, which makes the ending feel very rushed. The film is still good, but there's massive issues which make it very overrated from people, a lot of whom being nostalgia blind. Before anyone tries to say that about me, I am more nostalgia with Treasure Island in the 2011 film than this. I put Treasure Island in the same category as Great Muppet Caper. Back to Most Wanted, the pacing is really good, for how no bits must be stretched out. Considering how much this film has to juggle, it's impressive that there isn't pacing problems and the stories are connected. It may be quite small, especially compared to the previous Muppet film, but there is an emotional core to the film, mostly with Kermit's story, and its relationship with the Muppets prisoners and the jail warden. The characters develop across the story, which gives it purpose, and overall, the film has an expert story. Now on to the characters. Part 2, Great Characters. Now as for the characters, Kermit is technically the main character, but in a film like this, the protagonist is shared between different characters. Kermit has to learn to be more assertive and speak the truth when running a show, which he learned from running the show for the prisoners. It's kinda what you expect from Kermit's story in this movie, but it's executed well. Piggy's role in this movie is about wanting to marry Kermit, but when it finally does happen, it feels wrong somehow. She has an amazing role in the third act of the film, but if I have to say a problem, she's kind of irrelevant in the first and especially the second act. Walter is one of the Muppets who realises that Constantine is pretending to be Kermit, and his character works at both being tied to 2011 movie with continuing his story, and not being confusing to people who haven't seen that movie. Was he an animal also drawing Walter, with finding the real Kermit, but their characters are more comic relief? Which isn't exactly a problem, just make their little talk about. The rest of the Muppets are more sidelines, which makes sense considering how much of them there is, so I don't really mind that. Which is coming from someone whose favourite Muppets are Gonzo and Rizzo. Do you spare the Muppets now sidelining Fozzie, Gonzo, Animal, Rizzo, Yittery, Kermit, and most of the characters overall? It was a series with individual sketches, so it would have been easier to do so. Constantine and Dominic are superb villains and comic relief in the movie, for how enjoyable their dynamic is to watch. Diego and the officer also have an entertaining dynamic that leads to a very fun side plot of the film. Muppets Most Wanted characters are exceptional and incredibly used. It chooses 5 main Muppets to focus on, or 6 depending whether you count Igor, but I don't because he isn't part of the Muppets here, and also introduces loads of new characters that fit right in with the original ones. Their characterization and the way the characters are used here is superior to all other Muppet movies and shows in my opinion. Part 3 Superb Songs. Music from Most Wanted is spectacular, and I'm going to talk about the songs by ranking the 9 of them. Despite being on the soundtrack, I decided not to include the other language Muppet Show intro, because there isn't much to talk about. 9. Move Like Jagger. It's a bit weird I'm putting this on the list and not all the other more joke songs, but it got a proper soundtrack release. The cover is okay, but I don't think the original song is based on. 8. Together Again. This would just take it from May Manhattan. It works well in the scene, but it uses points for not being original or interesting. 7. I'll Get You Anything You Want. I feel bad that this is so low on the list, cause it's really catchy, but not much compared to the soundtrack's real highs. 6. Work in a Coal Mine. This is also not an original song, but the use in Most Wanted is still incredible. I could almost be mistaken as a song made for this film. 5. Something So Right. The babies are terrifying. Couldn't it just be a normal frog and pig without switching the choirs? Anyway, this spectacular song, both in sound and story, and the visuals are great at mimicking music videos. 4. The Big House. Don't have that much to say about this song, it just sounds amazing. 3. And number 1. This is a personal favourite for the really great sounding music and the interaction of Dominic and Constantine being translated into a musical number exceptionally. 2. Interrogation Song. This has good sounding lyrics with all really well written rhymes and puns. I like the saying on Interrogation Room starting the song. The only problem is I wish some of the extra bits like the Gonzo interview was in the film's main cut. 1. We're doing a sequel. Of course, the self-aware thought-faking song is my number 1 choice. For immediately telling what the movie will be like. Again, the music is amazing and the lyrics are very clever. In conclusion, Muppets Most Wanted songs have so many standouts. Even some of the weaker ones like I'll Get Anything You Want is still a very great song, and all the top 5 are exceptional. Compared to all the other Muppet movie soundtracks, the only close competition is Christmas Carol, but them songs feel a bit similar, while Muppets Most Wanted has a big range of different types of songs. Part 4. The comedy is also exceptional. This is the main reason I love Most Wanted so much. The story, character and songs still high contribute to that, but the comedy is the film's most standout element. It's mostly focused on dialogue humour, with loads of great lines. For example, when Walter finds out Dominic is paying people for positive reviews and appeals at the show's end, he tells Fozzie, whose response is, why didn't he think of doing that? On rewatch, I knew this joke was coming, but it's still a very funny line, advanced by the delivery and build-up. By the way, I'm not being invited for this positive review, but Disney should have come up with Snell's release. Or maybe they wanted to fail, more on that in the video's conclusion. Pop culture references aren't on the nose or any more prevalent than the Muppet movies usually are, so it works fine. The celebrities aren't in your face, and not knowing who they are doesn't take away from the viewing experience. The Muppet Show can be enjoyed without knowing the celebrity of the week, but it's yes entertaining for sure, and I, as someone who doesn't know much modern day celebrities, it gets even worse when you're trying to recognise celebrities from 40 years ago. Back to Most Wanted, the few jokes that reference pop culture and super outdated 7 years later, what really makes the jokes the character interactions. I've already said that Constantine and Dominic have a superb dynamic, but they are funny in practically every joke with them two involved. They really steal the show. I am only realising my unintentional joke when reading the script. Didn't even intend this, but other character dynamics are also spectacular to watch. I find Muppets Most Wanted really funny in my opinion, which is the final reason why it's an amazing film that is sadly barely discussed. In conclusion, Muppets Most Wanted are kind of being forgotten now, and most reviews say it's just okay. If there was more of a mixture of very positive and negative reviews, then it would probably be more remembered. However, with little strong reviews either way, and mostly getting a 6 or 7 out of 10, most people won't remember this film. There was no third film in what I'm calling the Walter franchise of Muppets films, when I think there was meant to be another one. Most Wanted was probably the reason why modern Disney only uses Muppets for merchandise. Muppets Now was obviously low budget, even if you do take potential lockdown issues into account, and it got better in the advertising that I think Disney didn't care about it. There is a Haunted Mansion crossover special coming later this year, but I feel it only exists to advertise the ride for Muppet fans, rather than advertise the Muppets for Haunted Mansion fans. Overall, Muppet content has slowed down ever since Most Wanted and the Muppets 2015 series weren't too successful, but personally, I don't see how this is forgettable. There's lots of epic songs, the story and characters are superbly written, and the comedy is extremely funny. I think it's easy to pick out of all Muppet material I have seen. If you haven't watched Muppet Most Wanted, definitely give it a watch, because it manages to appeal to fans of Muppet, and also general audiences simultaneously. This is a young video, and it was young to make me discuss Muppets positively more than negatively, because this video is younger than all of my Muppets Now views combined, even if you count the unlisted fourth one. In my analysis videos, I will praise things more often than criticise things. I prefer talking positively about something overlooked, or even hated in Minions' case, rather than criticising things that are praised, even though I will still be doing the second one if I think there's something I really want to discuss, like the Animaniacs reboot. I enjoy pointing out while certain films are amazing, even if little people seem to agree with me. The end.